Namo tassa bhagavato arhato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arhato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arhato sama sambuddhassa. I, Pallavi Tyagi, Assistant Professor, Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies, welcome you all to the International Webinar on Buddhism for Sustainable Environment on the occasion of Earth Day. Before starting the webinar, I want to state the objective of the webinar. The Earth Day is an annual event on April 22nd to demonstrate support for environmental protection, first held on April 22nd, 1970. It now includes a wide range of events coordinated globally. Tathagat Buddha Chair is celebrating Global Earth Day 2021 by organizing international webinar on Buddhism for Sustainable Environment. The core Buddhist doctrine is very significant for the preservation and protection of the environment. This webinar will look into the contribution of Buddhist doctrine for sustaining the global environment. We have already shared the tentative schedule with you all, so we'll run according to the schedule only. And going forward with today's schedule, I want to brief you about or introduce you to our university as well. So Swami Vivekanand Subharti University is a university under Section 2F of the University Grant Commission Act 1956, set up under the Swami Vivekanand Subharti Vishwavidyalaya, Uttar Pradesh Adhiniyam 2008. The university has been established under the aegis of Mahayana Theravada Vajrayana Buddhist Religious and Charitable Trust Meerut, which has acquired a commendable record of services in the field of education, healthcare, and social welfare. The main campus of the university is in the National Capital Region, strategically situated on National Highway 58, Delhi Bypass Road, Meerut. The campus, aptly called Subharatipuram, is spread over a sprawling area of about 250 acres of land comprising magnificent buildings, lush green lawns, and vibrant surroundings with over 5,000 people dedicated to make the university a magnum opus in the world. The university has several constituent colleges which provide higher education in mostly all the disciplines like medical, dental, nursing, physiotherapy, paramedical, pharmacy, naturopathy, yogic sciences, engineering, medical, dental, nursing, management, law, journalism, education, library, art, science, hotel management, faculty of science, Buddhist studies, etc. It is engaged by design to create academically and technically proficient professionals. The university has been awarded the membership of Association of Indian Universities in 2013. All India Conference of Intellectuals and School of the Educators have conferred university as the Outstanding University of the Year 2013-14 to the university of its outstanding contribution in the field of education, science, health, national integration, social empowerment, and preservation of cultural heritage. The university has also started a number of courses through distance education, approved by Distant Education Bureau of UGC. University has been accorded Grade A National Assessment for National Assessment and Accreditation Council in 2016. Now we'll talk about Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies, under which we have established the Tathagat Buddha Chair, who is the organizer of today's event. So Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies is an international Buddhist college established by Swami Vivekanand Subharti University, Meerut. It is the constituent college by the institution, by the initiation of Dr. Shalya Raj, Chief Executive Officer of Swami Vivekanand Subharti University. She is an academician and social activist, along with Dr. Hiro Ito, founding director of Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies, whose inspiration led us to the founding of Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies, a world-class center of Buddhist learning. Their brilliant thoughts were responded to beyond expectation by Buddhist delegates from 13 different countries who participated in a pre-inaugural SASSBS conference at university campus. At this historical meeting on 10th of March 2018, at Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies was founded in its principles, and it was decided to formally inaugurate Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies in the Vesak month of 2018. It marked the first event in the history of district Meerut where Buddhists of nearly all the sects in the Buddhism represented and gathered for the same purpose, the progress of Buddhist studies. On this historical occasion, about 130 Buddhist monks, scholars, teachers from 13 different countries paid homage to the Bodhi tree, which has been found in Swami Vivekanand Subharti University, Meerut campus, near Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies. The age of this Bodhi tree has been confirmed to about 115 years by the local horticulture authorities in 2018. Historically, Meerut has been under vast influence of Buddhist culture since 3rd century BC, as there existed an Ashokan pillar in Meerut in those times, which was later relocated to Delhi by Emperor Firoz Shah Tughlaq. The Sultan is said to have learnt about this Ashokan pillar existing in Meerut in the 14th century, and he got it transported to Delhi. Some historians are of the opinion that this magnificent structure built by the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka in 3rd century, and it has perhaps how we derived the name of our school as Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies. Now I'll talk about the organizer of today's webinar, that is Tathagat Buddha Chair. It was established in 2019 under the guidance of Dr. Shailya Raj, Chief Executive Officer, Swami Vivekanand Subharti University. The chair is serving as the center of learning and research, not only on the subject concerning to Tathagat Buddha and his philosophy, but also on the issues concerning the social, economic, cultural, religious life, peace, meditation, yoga, etc. In pursuance of its objectives, the chair is undertaking research on the topics related to Tathagat Buddha. The chair, time to time, is also organizing teachings, seminars, symposias, workshops, exhibitions, lecture series, and other similar academic activities. So, as we all know by the introduction itself, that a university is run by Mahayana Theravada Vajrayana Buddhist Religious and Charitable Trust. So we'll start this auspicious webinar with chanting. So I want to request Bhante Dr. Chandrakirti, Assistant Professor, Tathagat Buddha Chair, to come forward and please chant. So I would request all the joiners who have joined us from different virtual backgrounds and all our guests to join your hands and join us for chanting.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Itipiso bhagava arahang sama sambuddha bija charana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisada masarati sattha deva manusana Buddha Bhagavati Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Yehipasiko Vapanayiko Pachatang Vedita Bhaviyuhiti Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangha Vujupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangha Yaya Patipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samichi Patipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Yadidang Chattari Purisa Yuga Ni Atha Purisa Pugala Yesa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Avunaya Pavunaya Dakhinaya Anjali Karaniya Anotarang Puyang Kheta Lokasati Bhavatu Sabba Mangalang Rakhantu Sabba Devata Sabba Buddha Nubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Sabba Mangalang Rakhantu Sabba Devata Sabba Dhamma Nubhavena Sada Soti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanu bhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्य नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्य नमो तस्य भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्य. His Holiness Tai Situ Rinpoche, Most Venerable Sangha, Honorable Sir, Madam, dear brother and sister in Dharma, on behalf of Tathagat Buddha Chair, Samrat, Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies, Swami Vivekanand Subharti University, Meerut, I would like to welcome our chief guest, His Holiness Guru Vajradhara, 12th Canting Thai Sutupa Rinpoche, Abbot, Phalphung Serabling Monastery, Birling, Mrs. Stuti Narayan Kakkad, Chancellor, Swami Vivekanand Subharti University, and the chair of today's webinar. I welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. K.T.S. Sarao, former professor and head, Department of Buddhist Studies, University of Delhi. Our guest speakers, Most Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, Vice Rector, Vietnam Buddhist University, Vietnam. Most Venerable Geshe Damdul Dorji, Director, Tibet House, New Delhi. Most Venerable Sudhammo, Chairman, Dhammacha International Research Institute, New Zealand. Venerable Won Ung Bogyum, Dr. Chiren Lee, Chancellor, Gangwon Buddhist University, Seoul, South Korea. Dato Ang Chu Hong, former President and Advisor of Buddhist Missionary Society of Malaysia. Dr. Sang Chao Yo, Professor and Philanthropist, Taipei, Taiwan. Dr. Frank Tedesco, Director, True Dharma, Florida, USA. Acharya Kinle Gyaltsen from Bricking Institute, Dehradun. Sister Lopai Ling, President, Buddhist Missionary Society of Malaysia. Dr. Barbara Mas, Secretary for Environment and Conservation, IBC from UK. Dhammacharya Andrew Williams, Buddhist scholar from Australia. Brother Ratan Man Sakya, Chairman, the WFB Standing Committee on Environment from Nepal. Dr. Niniye, Vice President, University of Abhidhamma, Myanmar. Dr. Daminda Porge, President of Sri Lankan Tibetan Buddhist Brotherhood Society, Sri Lanka. Dr. Arvind Kumar Singh, Director, International Relations, Gautama Buddha University. Most Venerable Fom Song Pham, Buddhist Temple, Paris, France. Sister Don Theng, Buddhist Temple, Netherlands. Dr. Natpriya Saradam, researcher, Dhammachai International Research Institute, Thailand. And we also welcome all the participants who have joined us from different virtual platforms for this international webinar on Buddhism for Sustainable Environment on the occasion of Global Earth Day 2021. This virtual webinar is organized by Tathagat Buddha Chair. I hope you all will enjoy the deliberation. May the power of Triple Gem bless you all. May you all be happy and well. Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu.
Now I would like to take you forward with our next speaker, Dhamma Master Andrew Williams. Dhamma Master has been Dhamma teacher since 1998, initially in USA and now in Australia. Master Andrew has written numerous Buddhist mini musicals. He is actively engaged as a committee member of the Buddhist Federation of Australia, the World Fellowship of Buddhist Youth, the World Alliance of Buddhists, Sangakaya Foundation, World Buddhist Association, and KESI Multi-Faith Network. In addition to this, in July 2017, he was honored with the World Buddhist Outstanding Leader Award. And Dhammacharya ji, we have been following Dhammacharya ji all over because he's very active on Facebook. He's very active with his posts and teachings, with videos, everything during this pandemic time. So, welcome Dhamma Master.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too after so long.
Yeah, it's been a couple of months now. So yeah. I hope everything is you're doing okay and everybody is doing okay. I know with the COVID pandemic, many cases around you. So I hope you please stay safe. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Please continue.
Yeah. So everything is well here for me. Actually, my mother is out in the living room there watching some TV, and she was getting a bit tired waiting around. So I'm here now in this room by myself. And here at Phillip Island in Australia. So I would like to talk about us Buddhist practitioners especially, but also everybody. And, if we can influence everybody in a positive way to consume less. I think we overconsume things. Now, whether that be to do with the natural environment, such as food and so forth, or whether that be to do with technological products such as televisions and computers and so forth. We're always wanting, us humans seem to be always wanting what is new. And of course, the people that are selling these things want you to buy every time they come up with something new. But actually, we don't need to live like this. It becomes very disposable society. Especially in the more modern, more technological, advanced countries, Western countries especially, but also in throughout the world. We tend to not utilize things to their fullest. We're always looking to replace them with something. And unfortunately, it seems to have been set up that way too. So I would like to begin today starting with the individual. We Buddhist practitioners, we are individuals, as well as being interconnected with each other. Of course, everything we do, everything we say, actually somehow affects the environment, somehow affects all other living beings. In fact, I wasn't going to say this, but I just had a thought, just had a memory actually of one of my masters many years ago when I was living in the temple in California. And he said to me, be careful of your actions, your thoughts, your words, because even if you sneeze here in California, it will affect the weather in Paris, in France. So I just thought I'd bring that lightheartedness to this discussion. So we need to, from the individual point of view, straight away, we should start to moderate our behavior, moderate or teach ourselves, remind ourselves what it is that we actually really need. And then, of course, that's the primary needs. And then what is it that we need in a secondary level to utilize in our work, in our studies, and all of the lifestyle changes or lifestyle choices that we make. Excuse me while I just take these out. I'll put them back in later on. And so then I think, what do we need really? We need air to breathe, and we need clean air to breathe. So in many places around the world, unfortunately, as human beings, we have polluted the air. Of course, there's big companies that cause a lot of this carbon emissions and so forth. It was mentioned just earlier by Dr. Barbara there that the consumption of meat and the meat companies, there's a lot of pollution coming from that. And then also at the same time, there's a lot of deforestation, which to me is just like crazy. You create more pollution and then you take away the things that actually clean the pollution. So I think, there's, unfortunately, I think a lot of us human beings, especially, we don't think of that. We don't think, actually, just as we need to clean our minds, just as we need to clean our house and the dishes after we eat, we also need things on the planet that clean. We need to clean. So even if we can't, if we can't stop creating this pollution right now, please don't destroy the very thing, the trees, the forests that actually change that carbon or purify the carbon into oxygen. So, this is the type of thing that's a little bit crazy. So we need air, okay? That's a simple thing. We also need food to nourish our bodies, to give us the physical strength. We need to have water, clean water. Once again, there's so many places around the world where the water is becoming polluted, more and more polluted. And so we need to really check this as well. Really, I say to all human beings, let's challenge ourselves, to improve, to create less pollution, to destroy nature less, at very least less, hopefully eventually not at all, of course. So we need to have this food, this water. Our body relies upon it for us to maintain good physical health. We also need to have some sort of shelter. Now, this could be under a tree, or it could be in a house or in a tent. Also, coming under that category, you could say our clothes are kind of like shelter as well, protecting us from the physical elements such as the heat and the cold, the wet and the dry. And so these are, you could say, 4 necessities: the air, the food, the water, and the shelter. Everything else is really none of our business. Maybe you could be laughing at that comment there, or maybe it irritated you. I hope it didn't. But it really is none of our business. Our business really should be, as Buddhists especially, initially, of course, to train the mind. Of course, regulate the speech, regulate our physical actions, but specifically to train the mind. And as the Buddha said, do no harm, do only good, purify your mind. But of course, we need to have these physical things as well to survive as a physical living being. So air, food, water, and shelter. The rest is none of our business. We just choose to make it our business. Now, of course, such things as this computer here. We need this today so that we can have this webinar or seminar. And so if I didn't have this laptop, which, by the way, I only bought my very first laptop about a year and 3 months ago. And I've had to, through this pandemic time, I've had to teach myself with a little bit of help from students on the telephone on how to do it. So I'm very, as it was mentioned before, I'm very, very pleased that I've got into connection with so many other people due to these lockdowns and restrictions and so forth. Anyway, so we do need some things depending on your work. Let's say, for instance, if you live in a place that the public transport is not convenient for you and you have to go to work or to school or something, then maybe you need a car or a motorbike or something like that. So there are secondary things that we need as well. But we should live in moderation. We don't always have to change the car every year to make it look like you're popular or rich or something. Okay, so you actually can utilize the other car and try to keep it as clean as possible using the electric or using the LPG gas or something like that creates less pollution, say, than petrol. And so we do need certain things like that. The computer we need for sure to do things like this. I think in anybody that's studying as well, I think you have that opportunity. I come from Wales originally, and I know my mother, she keeps in touch with her relatives or my relatives on Skype and things like that, like once a week. So I think this is really nice. It's a very nice thing. Wales is a very long way from Australia. So I've written myself a few notes here just so I don't forget some things. So when we ourselves practice moderation like this, really teach ourselves and remind ourselves what it is we really need and to not be wasteful. We are so wasteful as communities around the world, wasteful with food. I mean, remind yourself of the people, for instance, that don't have much food or any at all sometimes, unfortunately. Really remind ourselves of this, to develop compassion, but also from your own point of view, to live in a more moderate way, okay? And also when we ourselves live in a more moderate way and become more compassionate, then we can influence others. It's like the pebble in the pond teaching, isn't it? You throw a pebble in the pond and the ripples go all over the pond. So you yourself, if you exude this compassion, this loving kindness, and also living immoderately and humbly, then, especially with your attitude, then this affects the people around you. What you'll find is that people feel more safe in your company. They feel much more at ease when they're around you. And therefore, there's more opportunity then for them to maybe pick up some of the good things that you're doing. Maybe I give another short teaching that says, if you see good in someone, make it be you. If you see bad in someone, don't let it be you. So we can pick up whenever people are behaving well, including yourself. We are good influence, or there's a chance anyway. We're a good influence, and others good influence. But of course, if we don't regulate our behavior, if we don't check our mind, make sure that our intentions are good, and then they creep into being not so good, maybe even bad, then actually it's not a good influence that we have on those around us. So like I said, I start with the individual, and then as we more purify our mind more and regulate our actions and our words, then the more that we can be a positive influence on those around you. Initially in your immediate area, then of course in maybe your suburb or your town or village, and then of course the city, and so forth and so on. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to mention is the rest of none of our business. Done that. Computer, car, done that. This is a thing that's quite it's difficult. It's very complicated in our world today. We have what we call the global economy. And then, of course, you have the economies of the different countries and even the economies of the different states and cities and so forth. But we have this global economy. To me, I don't see this as being sustainable, to utilize that word again. Nature, everything that is natural is sustainable if we don't destroy it. It always rejuvenates, it always fixes itself unless something is destroying it. Okay, so, but this economy, this made up money system, this made up banking system, all of these things are not sustainable. But it seems to me, and especially now it's become very evident throughout the pandemic times throughout the world, that the economies and governments are clinging to this, really wanting to save the economy. And I know it's got a lot to do with the people earning money so they can pay for things, and that's very legitimate and very logical. But richer, poorer is happening in our world more and more. This also is not sustainable. It's very few, or the percentage of the people that are very wealthy materially is very small. But there's a huge gap now between those that have too much, actually, not so much, but too much, and those that don't have anything at all, or hardly anything at all. This gap needs to narrow. It's very, very important that we think about this and that we actually take action. By example, again, individual and then different groups and so forth. Then I mentioned the trees already. Everything is impermanent. This is, I'm sure, has been mentioned throughout the webinar today. And impermanence so often actually is mentioned in a negative way or seen in a negative light. For instance, we are impermanent. One day we will die. One day, if we are healthy, maybe you lose the health, and like that. But it's not only a negative thing. We actually can change our ways, change our attitudes, change our mind, should become more compassionate, become more caring of others and also the natural environment. We actually can utilize the fact that things are impermanent to change for the better. But as human beings, of course, we tend to grasp onto things, don't we? We tend to hang on to things and think, this is me. This is my way. I'm not going to change. But actually, you're changing already. And actually, this clinging, this attachment is the cause of suffering, isn't it? Based on the ignorance, the lack of understanding. So we can change this. We can turn a lack of understanding into understanding. We can turn like a hatred or an anger into love and compassion, patience. We can turn this greed, this self-centeredness into generosity, into non-attachment. It's possible to do this. Otherwise, the Buddha wouldn't have taught us, would he? He wouldn't have, it's not as if he was guiding us down a path and then he turned around and said, oh, no, that's all. That's as far as you can go. Actually, he said that here's nothing more than what we can be or what we are in our true nature, to change the word slightly, to paraphrase. So, we all have the potential to actually be an enlightened being, to realize what we call the true nature. Or there's many other ways of expressing this. Maybe we call it nirvana or nirodha, cessation, or maybe we call it anuttara, samyak sambodhi, unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. But actually, these are all just words expressing the same thing. Okay, so we have the potential. So let's utilize this relative existence that we have now to work our way and penetrate beyond it, to understand the law of karma. To understand when we do something based on good intention and good action, then this brings goodness. This brings desirable results, not only for ourselves, but for all others around us and the natural environment. And then, of course, it's the other way with negative actions. Unsavory and undesirable results will be experienced at some stage. and neutral, of course. So equality and equal opportunity are very important for our world. And let's do our best to encourage others to help to create this within themselves as well as within their communities and in their countries and so forth. Equality, of course we're equal. You know, we all don't know everything yet. We're sentient beings. We're thinking beings. One thought to the next thought to the next thought. But we actually, everybody's like this. We all are ignorant right now. We all have avijja, or lack of wisdom, a lack of understanding. And so that means we're all equal. And then, of course, we have the potential for enlightenment. That means we're all equal. And I could go on, but I won't because of the time restraints. And so the next one, equal opportunity. Because of this equality, actually, we really need to have equal opportunity. And in education, in being able to have food and water and clean air and shelter, sufficient shelter. Okay, this is very, very important. So I go back to what I began with. There's other things as well. In Australia, you may understand this, or you may know this. Unfortunately, the Australian government is being, I'm not a political person, so I don't really know all of the terminology or all of the complications and so forth. But it seems to be being very irresponsible by not making plans to decrease the amount of pollution we make in the country. In fact, I think it's very fortunate in Australia that we have such a small, for the size of the country too, a small population. I don't know what it is, but maybe 25 or 26 million or something like that. And so we actually create a lot of pollution for that type of small population. And we need to stop this. And so, you know, I hope that we, as we speak about this, as we share this spirit of loving kindness and care for the planet, for other living beings and yourself, that I hope that we can influence somehow the government, whether it's this one or the next one that comes in, to do more about this. Because as mentioned, I'm sure many times today, this is not the case of when it's going to arrive, this so-called global warming or whatever it is we call it. But actually it's here now. So we need to do something now. Somebody asked me many years ago whether I agreed with carbon tax, which once again, I'm not an economist or politician, so I don't know the details of these things. And I said, actually, it's probably needed because many big companies are not paying attention to decreasing the carbon and pollution. So actually, it's maybe it's needed. They need to use an old saying, hit in the hip pocket. You know, in other words, charged with the money side of things, lose profits because of their lack of being responsible. And I said, because the reality is right now we have a choice. Now this is 10 years ago, but we have a choice. But in the future, maybe there's no choice. You know, people have been complaining in some countries about wearing masks during this pandemic time. But you know what? If we don't look after the planet, that's going to be something we're going to have to do, even to leave the house. So I think maybe that's it. I think I didn't look at the time. I'm sorry. I have a habit of when I'm talking, I don't look at the time. So hopefully I wasn't too long-winded. I think I covered everything I needed to, and maybe a little bit more to just remember that the more we don't look after the planet, the more there's going to be extreme weather conditions and so forth. The more pandemics there will be, we really need to take care. So start inside yourself and then radiate outwards.
True. It was so stimulating speech.
Oh, hang on, I've did my things. I took them out because I was too loud.
That was just the perfect speech. So stimulating. Much needed at this time when we all are going through such a pandemic situation. So
yes.
thank you so much once again.
My pleasure.
Thank you.